People are going crazy for a brand new AI video generator, but how does it stack up against Google Veo 3? We're taking a look at a few very practical examples of how you can use Adobe's brand new and magical compositing tool. 11 Labs just released 11 Labs Music, but how does it compare against Suno and Udio? Google just announced a brand new tool that completely blurs the line between video games and films, and it's more than likely going to change the way that we approach entertainment forever. So yeah, it's been a pretty big week. Welcome to your AI film news of the week. Now, before we get going, I want to give a special shout out to the Curious Refuge community in Seattle. They hosted a meetup this last week. We hope you guys had a blast. Okay, let's get to the news. The first big story that I want to talk about is a new AI video generator that's been on the market for a few weeks. It's called Seedance, and it was developed by ByteDance. Now, the thing that makes this model unique is the fact that it had an incredible amount of curation whenever they were compiling the data to train the model. They had people go in and manually curate and select the video clips that made it inside of the training data. So no logos, subtitles, or violence were used to create the videos that went into the model. The tool can do text to video and image to video, along with a lot of the other features that you've grown to love inside of other AI video generators. It's been specifically designed to work with natural language, and there's two different variations of Seedance. You have Seedance 1.0 Lite and Seedance 1.0 Pro. The Lite version is open source and can run on a computer with an NVIDIA L20 GPU in about 41 seconds. So it takes a while, but it's a Lite version that is open source. Seedance Pro is a more advanced version that really is positioning itself as a competitor to Runway, Kling, and Google Veo. But the big question is, how does it stack up? Well, let's take a look at how to use the tool. Generally speaking, it's a tool that's designed for the Chinese market, but I'm using a tool called Fall.ai, which is essentially a tool that combines many models together, and it gives you a lot of the functionality that may be difficult to get whenever you are just going to each individual tool. So from the Fall website, all we have to do is go to the search bar and we will type in Seedance. And we'll select the image to video model and make sure that you are in Seedance 1.0 Pro. So let's start with our image. So go ahead and go to the image URL section. I'm gonna go ahead and select choose. And for our example, we'll take this cinematic still of these two people having a conversation in a coffee shop and go ahead and bring that into Seedance. And for our prompt, I'm not going to describe the whole thing, but essentially the two people are in the cafe. The camera slowly gets close to them, and basically the guy says that I still remember the way you looked at me on that day. Under additional settings, go ahead and click that more button. You can see you have the ability to select different resolutions. It can natively generate in 1080p, which is awesome. And the thing that's really cool is you can change the duration all the way up to 12 seconds long. Now, in terms of pricing, a generation using Seedance Pro costs 62 cents for a 5-second video. If you compare that against Google Veo 3, which is about $250, you'll see that this tool is about 5 times cheaper than utilizing Google Veo. So when you're ready, all you have to do is go ahead and click run to generate your result. And after about a minute, we have this generation here, and you can see there really is a lot of character here. I would say that a lot of the expressions in the AI characters really does come across as pretty realistic. Now let's go ahead and stress test Seedance here. So I have this image, and basically I went in and prompted for the woman to be running, and it created this result. You can see it looks pretty realistic. It even understands that in her ear, she has this like futuristic AirPod in, and I think it did an amazing job. And the character also stays consistent as the video progresses, which I think is a big notch in Seedance's favor. I also wanted to see how it does with an animated format. So I have this animated frog that's basically in a realistic world, kind of a hybrid mixed media approach. And I typed in a prompt where I asked it to basically have the frog look around and say, what the heck is going on here? And it created this video here. You can see the frog is looking around. And yeah, it did a pretty good job with animating his face. The cars in the background look pretty realistic. I think it did a good job. And I did want to test out that 12-second feature, so I created this video here. You can see the cars seem pretty realistic, although those cars are definitely running a red light, so they're going to get some tickets, although it's LA, so maybe they won't get tickets. And so yeah, you can see there's a lot of expression in the frog's face. It did a really good job. Now you're probably wondering, how does Seedance compare to other AI video tools that are on the market? Well, we wanted to test some of the newer models that are out there. So we went ahead and tested VO3, Hailu 2, and Seedance Pro to see which one created the best results. So let's start with Hailu 2. We have this shot here. You can see it animated it pretty good. There's some expression in the woman's face. It is a little soft, but generally speaking, I think it looks fairly realistic. Now let's look at the same example in VO3.
I still remember the way you looked at me that day.
Okay, so as you can see in VO3, it also produced the audio, and I think there's a bit more expression in the character's face. But it also produced music in the background, which I don't love. But altogether, I think it did a good job inside of VO3. Now, one thing I want you to take a look at, and it's going to be a bit of a reoccurring theme inside of this video, is the upresing limitations of VO3. So VO3 is native in 720p, but when you upres it inside of Google's Flow, a lot of times you're going to get really harsh edges, like almost like you went into your video editing application or Photoshop and you really turned up the sharpness. It really detracts from the realism from your flow generations using VO3. So that's just one thing to note. And then finally, let's take a look at that Seedance generation again. You can see it looks very sharp. It's very realistic. I think it produced the best result. So let's look at that example of the person running. Here's the result from Hailu 2, and there's some awkward motion in the way she's running, and it almost looks like the shutter speed increases and the frame rate there at the end. It's okay, but it's really not the best result. You would probably have to run this a few times to get what you're looking for. I also think it begins to increase the contrast in a way that I don't love from that generation. Let's take a look at the VO3 example. Okay, so overall, it looks pretty good, but I do think that some of the physics and the way that her arms move, they kind of jitter at certain times. So it's not the most physically accurate representation of a person running. Again, let's take a look at the Seedance example, and you can see it looks very natural. It seems like it's in real time. There's even the smoke in the background, which looks pretty realistic. So again, I think Seedance did a better job in this instance. And then let's go ahead and take a look at our frog example. So here's the result from Hailu 2. And yeah, I don't know what happens to the frog there at the end. He looks like he kind of morphs a bit. Let's take a look at the VO3 example.
Ribbit. Where the heck am I?
Where the heck am I? I love that. And then I love that he says the word ribbit at the beginning, which is really funny. And again, let's take a look at the Seedance example. You can see we have the frog, some realistic texturing, and then he speaks at the end. Obviously, the lip sync problem would be something that you would have to work around if you used Seedance, but it looks, again, very, very realistic. So while this was a limited test, I think generally speaking, if you don't need audio rendered directly into your video, the results that you get from Seedance Pro are better than Google VO3. I'd love for you to test it out for yourself and let me know what you come up with on your end. But right now, our best AI video model that we recommend is Seedance. Switching over to Adobe, the team released a brand new feature inside of the beta version of Photoshop that really feels like magic. The tool is called Adobe Harmonize, And basically it allows you to take multiple layers and automatically composite them together to match the lighting. Let me show you how to use this feature. So the first thing you need to know is you have to have the beta version of Photoshop, which actually everybody has access to as long as you are a subscriber to the Creative Cloud. Now, in order to download the beta version of Adobe Photoshop, just go to that apps section in the far left corner, click on the beta button, and you should see Photoshop beta there. You can go ahead and click download, update, or open depending on how it is on your computer. So I'm inside of Photoshop here, and let's go ahead and bring in our asset. So for our example, I want to do an advertising project where essentially we have this image that was generated in an AI image generator, but I want to swap it for a very specific energy drink. Well, all you have to do is go ahead and bring that background image into Photoshop, and I'm going to make sure that I have our rectangular marquee tool selected. I'll go ahead and make a selection around that soda and go ahead and click remove. And it did basically a perfect job. So now it's time to bring in our hero asset. So for our example, I'm going to bring in this fictitious can of soda. Obviously, it'd be very hard to prompt for this specific can again and again. We'll go ahead and bring that into Photoshop. I'm gonna go ahead and scale from the middle. I'm holding down Option on my Mac here, and it's scaling right from the center. Go ahead and click that check. Now, the cool thing is inside of Photoshop, you can click Remove Background, and it will automatically remove that background. So I'll hit Command T, and now we can scale it up and down. Let's say that we want it about there. Go ahead and click the check mark. And now there's a brand new button called Harmonize. And you can go ahead and select that button and it will automatically composite everything together. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at a few of our results. We have number 1 here. I think the lighting is a little off. It's close, but not quite. Number 2, which looks much better. You can see there's realistic shadowing around the can. There's a bit of shadow down here, but it's still the primary asset. You know, you would expect if you're working on an advertising project for the color grading artist to go in and brighten up the hero asset a little bit more. So it did a pretty good job there. And then we have the final asset here, which I think might be the best result. So we're going to go ahead and use that one. Go ahead and go to File and export it to your machine. And I thought it'd be fun to animate that image and prompt in for a squirrel inside of Seedance. So we have this video here of this squirrel just loving the energy drink. I think it did an amazing job. So I want to take a look at a film example as well. So I have this image here. It's basically, you know, cinematic color grading. Let's say I like the overall style of this image, but of course I want to change the subject. Well, let's go ahead and bring that into Photoshop. And again, I'm going to select around the character here. We're going to select remove, and it will think for a second and then remove that character. Now let's bring in the character that we actually want to use, which is this awesome like dinosaur mech character. Go ahead and bring them into our scene and go ahead and remove the background. So we remove the background from our character. You can see the lighting is not even close. Like it really does not look like that character is in the environment at all. But we'll go ahead and move him and assume that we want somewhat similar composition. Click OK, and then go ahead and click Harmonize. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at our results here. So we have number 1, number 2, and number 3. I think number 3 did a really good job. And you can also dial in the opacity. So if it's a little too much, like in this example, it's maybe a little dark, you can dial it in just a little bit to bring in some of the original pixels if you're having a hard time. And of course, it's Photoshop, so you can go in and color adjust anything you want. And I wanted to animate this character, so we went into Seedance, and now he's just kind of walking around, and it looks pretty realistic. I think this tool inside of Photoshop is big for a variety of reasons. The main one being advertising projects, having the ability to use generative AI to scope out the way you want your advertisement to be, and then just going in and quickly rotoscoping out an image of that asset and easily compositing it into your brand new image makes commercial generation incredibly easy. And I have a great example of that later in the video in our AI Films of the Week. We'll get to that in just a little bit. The world of entertainment was absolutely shook by a brand new announcement from Google called Genie 3. If you remember from a few months ago, Genie 2 was basically a tool that allowed Google to render 3D worlds that could be interacted with in real time. So it's not like an AI video model where you basically upload an image or type in a prompt and then you wait for it to generate the result. This one was actually creating a world that you could basically control with a 3D character in real time. Now, Genie 3 is essentially a big step forward on that tool, and there are some incredible examples over on their website. Now, a few technical specs that you should know about: Genie 3 can operate at 720p in 24 frames per second, and it can generate results that are multiple minutes long. So it's not just a few seconds, you can interact in this world for a while. Genie 3 also allows you to type in prompts to interact with the environment. So you can say what you want to see in this world, and Genie 3 will basically make it appear. And it also understands object permanence. So any changes that are made, you can look away, go somewhere else, and come back, and that change will still be reflected inside of this model. But I don't want you to hear it from me. You can check out the research paper by clicking the link below this video. Here's a quick example of a Mars rover walking around, and basically they just typed in a prompt and generated this world, and they can explore around Mars. We also have this shot here of a boat in a harbor. You can see they're driving around. They even interact with the objects in the harbor. Do you see them hit that lamp? That's an advanced technique that Genie 3 is just able to do. It can also do real-world physics simulations. So we have this person walking along this path here, and there's waves coming through, and you can see those are some pretty complex physics that are being generated in real time. We have this 3D scene of a lightning bug interacting with this environment. You can see he moves around, and it even understands lighting dynamics. Now, this is a really cool example of the physical continuity inside of Genie 3. Essentially, we have a character who painted on one part of the wall, moved over, and you can see the paint on the wall stays intact, and they can look back and around and then look back at the wall, and everything stays in the exact same spot. And like I said earlier, Genie 3 gives you the ability to say what should happen next. So we have this scene from London, and it's like, what should we see? And we can say, I want to see a chicken suit runner. And there you go. You have a person running around in a chicken suit. We can say we want to see a dragon, and he interacts with the canal there. And we can even say we want to see a jet ski, and yeah, someone just goes along on a jet ski. The examples we've seen so far are basically you being the main character and using a keyboard to look around the environment. But they also came out with the ability for you to basically pretend you're an NPC and say what you want the character to do. For example, we're inside of this museum, and let's say walk towards the T-Rex. And you can see the character walks right under the T-Rex. We can also say approach the mammoth, and the character will orient towards the mammoth and walk over to it. Now, of course, there are limitations that will make it kind of harder for this to be adopted in a large scale capacity. For example, you can't really manipulate objects in the environment very much. You can interact with them a little, but not in a very complex way. When you ask the NPCs to perform a certain action, they don't always get it right, so it's just one thing to note. And it's not very good at doing text rendering, which is kind of interesting, but just something to note at this time. But all of that being said, we are quickly approaching the moment whenever the line between video games and films is really going to begin to blur. Pretty soon, you will be able to watch a film and prompt for what you want to see next. Now, is that something that's going to be interesting to do every single day and replace theatrical films or television? I don't think so. I think that it's going to be something new, but also very interesting. The team at Boba has announced Anime 1.3. So Boba Anime is a video model that's specifically designed to recreate anime results. This new tool, which should be live by the time you're watching this video, does everything from text to video to image to video. It also allows you to have consistent characters and lip sync. So it's looking to be an all-in-one tool if you are looking to work with an anime style project. We'll more than likely do a deep dive analysis of this tool very, very soon, but just be on the lookout for that if you like working on anime projects. The team at Leonardo announced a brand new image generator called Lucid Origin, and they basically said it does everything and it should be your new favorite AI image generator. We were really curious to test it out, so let's hop into the tool to see how it works. To use the tool, just go to the Leonardo website. We'll go ahead and click Launch App and go ahead and go to the image section. So from here, we'll type in a cinematic still of a realistic dragon flying above a football stadium, and you'll see we're in Lucid Origin on the left. Now, they do have the ability to automatically enhance your prompts. I actually like turning that off. I feel like it gets a little wonky sometimes, and they do have predefined styles. I'll go ahead and select cinematic, and you can change your aspect ratio, the size, and the number of images, and go ahead and click generate. And after a few seconds, we have a few different generations here. So you can see we have different shots of the dragon. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the best generation from the batch. And I also wanted to prompt in for a shocked football fan inside of the crowd. So we have a few different variations here. I think they're okay. It kind of is giving early versions of Midjourney, like maybe Midjourney 5. But the result does look moderately cinematic. But let's compare that to the same results inside of Midjourney and Flux Pro. So Flux Pro generated this result, so that dragon looks terrible. And then it created this reverse shot, which actually does look pretty good, but man, that dragon is just really bad. We also have this result from Midjourney, looks incredibly cinematic, like it was pulled from maybe like an advertisement that's like combining a football stadium and then also a dragon. It also interpreted football as soccer, which is kind of interesting. And then we have the reverse shot of the character who's shocked here, and yeah, it did a good job. So yeah, I think all things considered, I still would prefer to use Midjourney 7 to the new tool inside of Leonardo, but if you like using Leonardo, I recommend checking it out. The team at Higgsfield has announced that they've integrated Topaz Video AI directly inside of their platform. So now you have the ability to upres your Higgsfield videos or any video that you have on your computer directly inside of Higgsfield. To use the tool, all you have to do is go to the Higgsfield website and go ahead and click Upscale. And they actually have this promotion right now where you get unlimited videos using Minimax Hailu 2 if you subscribe to Higgsfield, which is pretty good. I don't think Hailu 2 is the best tool on the market, but you get it unlimited, which is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and bring our video in. So I generated this shot inside of Runway, but I didn't upscale it in Runway. So this was generated in 1080p using their brand new Aleph method. It was really cool. You can watch the tutorial, which we released recently. This is one of the examples from that video. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag and drop this into Higgsfield. And over on the right, you can select what size you want the output video to be. I'm going to select 4K. Make sure you click that advanced drop down there, and you can go ahead and select whatever model you want. Now, the default model is the Proteus model, which is very good, but in my opinion, the best model is the Rhea model. So I'm gonna select that one, and we'll go ahead and allow the parameters to be automatic. And you can select frame interpolation if you need to smooth out any frames. For this one, we don't need it because it's in 24 frames per second and it looks exactly the way that we want it to look. Although let's just ignore that extra sixth finger that kind of slowly appears there in the background. So go ahead and click Upscale. So after a few minutes, we have this result here, and the upscale looks really, really good. I think it did an amazing job at preserving the lens qualities of the generated asset, and altogether, I think it looks pretty darn realistic. Now let's compare that to the same 4K example inside of Runway whenever you directly scale it from Runway. And honestly, it's almost indistinguishable. I think that the result from Topaz Video is just slightly better, but the upscaling model inside of Runway has been getting better and better. And I think that there's really no reason to use Topaz unless you absolutely want to if you're working on a generation directly from Runway. Now, that's very different than if you're working with Google Veo 3. So here's our OG video from Google Veo 3. This is in 720p. You can see that, It looks fine. It's a little more contrasted than what I'd hoped for, but if you directly upres it inside of Google VO, and it may be hard to tell here on YouTube, it's gonna create some weird sharpness around the edges that ultimately does not come across as very realistic. But if you compare that to the upscaled generation that we got from Higgsfield, we have this result using the Rhea model, and it really does look fantastic. There's great texturing. It comes across as very realistic without being hyper sharpened. So if you need a tool for quickly upresing your video footage, Higgsfield is a great option. The team at 11 Labs dropped 11 Labs music this last week. And the thing that makes this brand new music generation model very unique is the fact that it's copyright cleared as long as you subscribe to the right level inside of 11 Labs. So this is very different than other AI music generators that are on the market, like Suno, which have questionable training data. In fact, 11 Labs has specifically said that they trained their model on licensing deals from the Merlin Network and the Cobalt Music Group, and they have not trained it on Universal, Sony, or Warner Music. So again, 11 Labs is being very intentional about saying where their model comes from. You can listen to a few examples over on 11 Labs' new music page. Let's take a quick listen. It's okay, kind of Suno-esque. Here's a quick hip-hop track.
I came up through the cracks with ambition in my pocket. Mama praying every night, but the devil trying to knock it. Street lights cast shadows where my dreams used to live. Counted blessings on.
That song actually sounds pretty good. Now, let me show you how to use this tool inside 11 Labs Music. So let's go ahead and log in to the platform, and we'll go to the music section on the left. And for our song, I'm going to stick with the Warped Tour vibe because it just happened out here in Los Angeles. We'll say a high-energy pop-punk track about Los Angeles summers with driving distorted guitars. Basically, we want some emo music. And go ahead and click Generate. And after a few seconds, it will generate a couple different songs that you can work with. You can also see it adds in some carrots here of different things that you're looking for, and it excludes certain styles that you don't want to see. It also generates the text automatically, but you do have the ability to go in and edit it, which is pretty cool. And the other thing that makes 11 Labs music unique is the fact that it automatically breaks your song down into intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and you have the ability to adjust the edges and the duration to change the song. So it's pretty cool. It gives you some added flexibility. But let's go ahead and listen to the result from 11 Labs. Okay, so it sounds okay. I think the music's fine, but the words are a little jumbled. Let's listen to our second variation.
Sunlight flickers off the freeway signs. Another night I'm tangled in my mind.
Okay, so you get the idea. It sounds okay. It really does have that mechanical undertone that a lot of AI music tends to have. Now, I wanted to do the same test in a couple of the other AI music tools that are on the market. So here's the exact same prompt inside of Udio.
Cruising down the boulevard like the heat of the day. Sunshine blazing, no time to waste. I'm breaking my fucking punch, feeling alive, riding the waves.
Okay, so I don't know what he's saying there. Not the best result. Let's listen to the same track inside of Suno.
Sunburn my skin again. Who cares what time it is? Another day in LA. He makes me wanna play top down stairs.
Okay, so that sounds like a professionally produced song. It really did an amazing job. But again, the results that you get from Suno were more than likely trained on data they didn't have the right to scrape. So of course, you probably couldn't use that in a professional project, which makes 11 Labs incredibly enticing if you work on video projects. We've extended the deadline for our AI sketch comedy competition by a couple days. You now have until midnight on August 10th to submit your projects. This is your shot to win from a pool of $9,000 in cash prizes sponsored by Epidemic Sound. If you think you have what it takes to enter this competition, we would love to see your project. There are quite a few AI film events popping up around the industry. Runway is hosting a meetup in Kuala Lumpur on August 16th. The Curious Refuge community is hosting a meetup in Vancouver on the 23rd of August. The Forward Festival in Berlin is happening on August 28th, and we have a Curious Refuge meetup happening in Palm Beach on August 28th as well. We'll also be judges at the Venice International Film Festival at the end of August and early September. So if anyone else is going to be there for the festival, let us know. Perhaps we can do a last-minute meetup in the next few weeks. And that brings us to our AI Films of the Week. The first film that I want to shout out is a big deal in the AI space. I'm talking about Ancestra by Eliza McNitt. This is the film project that was produced by Darren Aronofsky, and basically they released the film to where you can watch it online. Finally, if you take a look at the film, what you'll probably notice, in addition to the incredible curation and match action, is the sound design is absolutely on point. Not only are the visuals some of the best that we've seen in an AI project, it's also some of the best sound design I've ever seen from an AI film as well. And our final project that I want to shout out is called Ren Home by Hikmet Güler. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's basically a concept advertising project that looks incredibly realistic. I'd say that this is some of the most incredible and realistic renders from an AI project that we've ever seen. It features various home goods from this company, and altogether, I think they did an amazing job, not only with the visuals, but again, the sound design is really on point. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of AI Film News. You can, of course, get AI Film News sent directly to your email inbox. Just go to the Curious Refuge website, click that blue button in the top corner, and we would love to send you a few other freebies for joining our community. And of course, you can like and subscribe here on YouTube to get the latest tutorials and content directly here on the platform. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.